Last update 02112017, Washington. In November 2, Bernama The United States voted against the UN resolution condemning America's trade embargo against Cuba on Wednesday, a latest move underscoring the new Cuba policy launched by the Trump administration to deviate from the Obama legacy, China's Xinhua news agency reported. The resolution was overwhelmingly approved in the UN General Assembly by a vote of 19-12, with only the United States and Israel voicing opposition. The voting result is the same as that in 2015, though differing from last year, as abstention by the Obama administration, which emphasized a thaw in bilateral relations between the two former Cold War foes. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley blamed Havana for the embargo, saying prior to the vote that the United States will continue to oppose the resolution as long as the Cuban people continue to be deprived of their human rights and fundamental freedoms. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Pereira fought back, saying the U.S. blockade is a flagrant, massive and systematic violation of the human rights of all Cubans and qualifies as an act of genocide. One day earlier, the Trump administration notified its intention to vote against the resolution which called for an end of the trade embargo imposed in 1959 by the United States. Accusing Cuba of engaging in human rights abuses, U.S. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert told a press briefing that U.S. opposition underscored the new Cuba policy initiated by the Trump administration to put greater emphasis on advancing human rights and democracy in Cuba. The past U.S. administrations perhaps have turned and looked the other way, said Nauert. The new approach announced by U.S. President Donald Trump in mid-June imposed restrictions on Americans' travel to Cuba and U.S. business with Cuban military. Meanwhile, it kept the restoration of normal-use Cuban diplomatic ties untouched and retained the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. Experts saw Trump's new directive as making moderate changes to his predecessor's policy, rolling back part of Obama's content while keeping most of it intact. Therefore, the impact of Trump's new rules on U.S.-Cuba relationship is believed to be limited. However, tension between the two former Cold War enemies has been growing in recent months over the alleged acoustic attacks against U.S. diplomats in the embassy in Havana. Bernama